Hello everybody, this is a bit of an in-depth guide to the new Secret Garden event and how to easily get the level 12 Vanilla Cream Mansion block. The strategies I will show you will help you consistently get higher scores with the help of little to no power-ups and very little RNG. To be clear, this video is not a demonstration, but more of the theory and strategies on how to get better runs. I will, however, have a demo utilizing and going over the strategies and actual scenarios as a separate video in the description. Before I start though, here's a very basic overview on how to play this minigame. So how this game works is you have a board and items drop on this board. And if you take two identical items and combine them, boom, now you have an item with a bigger number. Now here are a couple of concepts and mechanics that you need to understand to make getting better runs on this event much easier. First is the next placed block. As many of you may know, on the button you press to place the next block, it also shows you which block is going to be placed. So in this example, the next placed block will be the 2-star block. Second is the idea of forced placement. Now, typically when a block is placed on the board, the tile it lands on is randomized. However, as we can see in this example, when there's only one tile open, the block is forced to be on that tile. This can help you plan better in your runs, as well as reducing the amount of RNG involved. Another thing to note is that although my board is completely filled, the run does not end because there are still mergeable blocks. Third is the concept of making chains. Now, this concept is vital for basically any reliable strategy for this game mode. Making chains is basically just putting all of your higher tier blocks next to each other, so that when you have enough blocks, you can combine them all in one go to a predictable location. Fourth is the idea of block movement and counting. So blocks can only move one space at a time in any of the 4 directions when combining. This means the number of tiles away a block is from its target location is how many numbers or tiers it will increase. So let's say for this example, we want this tier 4 table block to get into the corner where the tier 6 statue is. The table is 3 tiles away from the corner. That means when it gets to the corner, it will be a tier 7 block. This concept is especially helpful to know if you have higher tier blocks that are far away from your chain, and you want to know if you can get them back into your main chain. Fifth is the concept of stalling. In most strategies, you'll have a main chain and an area where most of the merging happens. Something I notice a lot of people do is that every action in the merging area goes towards the main chain. And while this may help to get bigger numbers faster, it can also be a run killer from unoptimal block places. Stalling is the idea of merging blocks, typically those with lower numbers, farther away from your main chain where they're unlikely to affect it, while waiting for a better block to be placed next. Here are a few tips on how to use your items on the later parts of your run, or when your board positioning is not that great. The hammer can help you in 2 ways. First, it can help you with forced placement. So if there is a block that is occupying a square you want the next block to go in, you can just use a hammer to break it open. Second would be for space making. So if you have a high tier block in a bad position far away from your main chain, you can just use your hammer to break it. Also, if you have a lot of mid-tier blocks like 3s and 4s around, you can try to merge them all together so you can break them with 1 hammer instead of 3 or 4. The rewind tool, in addition to being able to fix a mistake you've made, can act as a hammer, but only for the most recently placed item. This will make it so that you don't have to waste hammers repeatedly breaking recently placed blocks. The blueprint will act as a forced placement for when there are multiple tiles open. This is especially helpful in those cases when the next tile is something like a 3 and you need it in a specific location. One final tip that I would say is not necessary to know, but was incredibly helpful, are shapes. Knowing which shapes lead to certain outcomes will help you see patterns on your board and will help you plan better during your runs. Here are just a couple of the most common ones I've seen. The first ones are what I like to call the Tetris blocks. The S shape, the L shape, and the line can all turn into a block 2 ranks higher at either of the non-end tiles. The square can also turn into a block 2 tiers higher, but at any of the 4 tiles. The T shape, the 3L shape, the 3 line, and the plus are all pretty difficult to use because of the way merging works in this game mode. They are only really useful for the lower tier blocks by using the next place block to try to get a higher tier block. Finally, the biggest danger and the number 1 run killer is diagonals. Because you can only merge in 4 directions, diagonals will effectively cut off certain blocks and will make you unable to merge them. The only 2 ways to break out of a diagonal are to use a hammer to make a pathway, or to merge one of the blocks making the diagonal outward. That is basically everything you need to know in order to consistently get strong runs in the Secret Garden game mode. You can use these tips to farm gardening tools by getting runs of 300,000 or higher, and hopefully get the tier 12 Vanilla Cream Mansion block.